Good morning, Ammar.
Good morning, listeners and viewers. Welcome to our weekly radio show, which feels as if it's more like a monthly one, doesn't it, Jeff?
Has been a bit disparate the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, so wonderful to see you. You're listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
live on our weekly radio show right here on Spice FM.
Each week we'll try and bring some views, news, and one or two clues from the business world.
Asian Business Connections aims to connect, support, and promote the Asian and wider community.
And we'll be talking shop quite literally, and not just corner shops. Whether they're looking to start a business, have an existing business, or you just want to talk business, we can help.
We can help. We can help. And we do help. So, gosh, Jeff, how are you?
I've been all right, Ammar. I think had a bit of a little bit of a flu. Went away for a few days, and then I got back, and I can feel a little bit of a sore throat on the plane, and then it's just something that I'm still recovering from. Wasn't COVID. It was just a good old-fashioned flu, where just the usual symptoms of headaches and a chesty cough and that kind of stuff. But I think there seems to be a fair bit of it going around at the moment as well. But it is that time of the year as well, isn't it? Where the change of weather and what have you, the cold comes and your body takes a bit of adjustment.
Well, I don't know, to be honest, in that. So about 4 weeks ago, I think, my wife had got it. My daughter had brought it home, I think, from school, or at least my wife had got it, and she was really bad. She was really, really bad. And in fact, I'd almost suggested she'd never been that unwell.
Recovery.
So I think she hadn't been she was like dizzy. It was basically all the symptoms that you would get if you thought you had COVID.
COVID, yeah,
but it wasn't COVID.
And it was it kind of worse than COVID?
Yeah, for my wife it was.
Yeah, that's how I felt. That's how I felt it was. So it just makes you wonder what the difference is in the strain of COVID and the ordinary flu. And
well, you don't know whether the flu's mutated or whether there's just a variant of COVID, because the tests on picking up the suggestion it is flu. But don't forget, COVID is a flu-like sort of how it distributes and how it's a variant, as in, and flu has. So when my wife went to the doctors, because she did go to the doctors, he had said, well, the flu isn't just a cold, it's a significant sort of illness that can sort of seriously debilitate you and impact you. So the challenge with it was it took my wife out, and it then took me out. But it like really took us out, like as in it was, and even now. So 3 weeks after, right, I've still got pressure behind my eyes. I've still got a bit of my chest hasn't gone, and both the wife and I took a course of antibiotics. So because of our chest, and we took antibiotics, and it was just really interesting that it's lingering. All of the things that they had suggested, like long COVID, it feels like long flu.
And did you get it just because it was in the house, it was in the air, and it just transferred? It was transmissible.
Well, I remember going to bed one night, and the wife was really not well. As in, I cannot remember seeing her that unwell and complaining about it, how unwell she felt, the headaches, the dizziness, I mean, literally, it was everything. It was literally everything. You know, every single aspect of illness that, like, every symptom, dizziness, headache, pain, ache, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't get into bed, you know, I didn't want to lie there, sweating. I mean, I spent 3 days just sweating, like temperature, you know, it almost felt as if I'd like drift off. And then the lethargy, how tired and exhausted. I mean, even last week, I was regularly sat in front of the telly at like 7:30 and just fall asleep. And then not being able to get up, like physically exhausted, and all of these things and all of these symptoms were what other people were saying they felt when they had COVID, which was really peculiar. And the people that I've spoken to who have had this, you know, Martha next door, critical member of the team, Martha got it, and obviously I imagine got it from me, but Martha was really unwell, like really unwell, and still isn't 100%. So it's like it's just being aware of that, and the biggest issue, Jack, was because you went away to Abu Dhabi, or where did you go? Scooby Doo or Scrubber. And so you went there, and that week, our son was the mascot at the Everton game, right? And I had the ABC dinner. So on the Wednesday, right? And our daughter wasn't that well either. But I remember, like, Tuesday I was in bed like all day. Monday got in is when I got it. Tuesday in bed. Wednesday, both wife and I were like dying literally, and then got up, took lots of Lemsip Beechams, like so many tablets and everything, just to feel okay enough to go. And the match wasn't until 7:30, but we took our son and his friend, but we were like, got the tour, went everywhere. He was like, this is the best day of my life. It was like incredible. And it was an incredible experience. But it was like you're that unwell that you're like going, oh my God, what am I doing? You know, as in both of us shouldn't have been there. We then went into the chairman's suite and you know, as part of at half time and said hello and things like that. And but then after half time, I left because I was like, you know, we need to go and had to go and collect our daughter. But by the time we got home, we were like, you know, as in, because you forced yourself out to go and do something. Yeah. And if it was anything else, wouldn't have done it. You know, we couldn't have done it. But it was like, it was his big day, and he loved it, and he was on the pitch, and you know, one of the players gave him a jacket and things like that, and all of this, and he's cherishing all of this, and he got to say who he was going to walk out with, and he walked out with Bruno, and you know, ran around, and there's a video of him, and he scores a goal, and the crowd behind the goal goes, yeah. So the you know he'd had an amazing time. So it was nice, it was good, but I was saddened because I didn't get to enjoy it properly, you know, because your head's not right, body's not right. And then the ABC dinner, I was in bed all day on the Thursday, and you know how much effort goes into that, you know. So the team pulled together and done what they could and all of that. And then I got out of bed at 5 o'clock, but because we'd forced ourselves and probably shouldn't have done what we done and took like so many tablets, I was like rattling and everything on the Thursday. got out of bed at 5 o'clock, finished the speech, got ready at 6 o'clock, went to the dinner for 7 o'clock, was back home for 8 o'clock. I just
Really?
like, yeah. I went there, didn't touch anyone, didn't go near anyone. Like, and honestly, I was like a zombie. Like, and people were like, I've never seen you like that. Can't believe you were there. And your eyes were glazed, and you were just like, I was sweating and everything. I was like, I was in the middle of shivers, all of that fever. And I was like, stood on stage, done the presentation, give out a couple of awards, and then ran away. I couldn't stay there. And it was like, and then, like, literally, right. And then literally, we spent Friday in bed. We were meant to go to Liverpool on the Saturday, and we didn't. But the kids were like okay by now, and we still weren't 100%. And as I say, the wife went and seen the doctor on the Friday, who said, listen, it's just a really bad case of flu, but I can see that there's a bit of a bacterial, in your chest, and there might be, so I'll give you a course of antibiotics. If you don't feel any better by Sunday, start taking them. So obviously I then got some as well. And we were meant to go down to Alton Towers for 2-3 nights, 2-3 days, and all of that. But literally, we were like suffering. So because the kids, it was half term, I still managed to get up. And on the Sunday, drive to Alton Towers, stayed over for one night, and then came back on the Monday. But all of that week, we were like, I just couldn't get out of bed. And I was like falling asleep at 7, 8 p.m. So I was like real exhaustion. Be crazy. So tell me about you. So you got it on the plane.
I think I don't think it was as severe, Mar, as what you guys had it. I think for me, it was just a matter of the change in the weather from being in aircon surrounded venues and taxis and hotels, and then from coming out into the sun. And I think that does something to me that my body doesn't really like. And I was okay whilst I was there. We had a phenomenal time.
How was it? So tell me.
We went to the UFC, Amal, the UFC, which is obviously the mixed martial arts. Those that don't know it, it's really it's really hot at the moment. And whilst boxing has got all the tradition and the history, but UFC is a very, very dynamic sport, and it's kind of really hot on the heels of boxing currently at the moment. It's all about, you have a particular style and I have a different particular style, and it's a matter of put us both in the ring and see who wins, and the best style or the best overall fighter wins, as opposed to just boxing with your gloves. You can bring them on, you can wrestle them, you can kickbox them. So it's mixed martial arts, and the biggest brand of this is the UFC, and it's absolutely huge at the moment. And my brothers, who are really, really into it, organized some tickets. But seeing it live, Mark, honestly, it is something else. I mean, you go to island, which is called Yes Island, but it's kind of it's known as Fight Island. So if you imagine, you go to this island and the world's meanest fighters kind of rock up. It's a bit like, Bloodsport, Ammar. You would have seen Bloodsport over the years with Jean-Claude Van Damme, and you got all these warriors that turn up to a tournament. It just makes you feel like that, and you're kind of experiencing that. You got the meanest men on the planet. But on top of that, though, interestingly, when we go to football, you have a lot of different so many different groups of people you see with your own eyes, whether it's families, individuals, groups of friends. And when we went to the UFC, what was interesting, and obviously we're based in the UK, lived here all of our life, but when you go to different parts of the world, it's really interesting to analyze different groups of people from different countries. So those that are from kind of the Caucasus, if you have a look at these guys, they all look like naturally built animals, the fighters. When you see their bodies and their physiques, they're like naturally so huge, and the arms are massive. And there was a table of about 12 of them sitting down having a dinner, and every single one of them looked like a beast. And I'm thinking to myself, wow. So naturally, I think some countries, some regions, they just create fighters because that's what their natural kind of instincts are, or that's how they've been bred, or that's how they've been born.
And did you see a series of fights, or was it just one big one?
Yeah, there was like a number of fights. There was about 10. There was about 10 fights, and all of them were just amazing. Then there was a title fight, which was, I mean, those that know, there's a guy called Habib who's a huge name in
Yeah,
the sport. He's probably famous. Well, he's got a new protege who's called Islam. They both basically trained together all of their lives, and Habib's father passed away a few years ago, a couple of years ago, and he did say that he would be the new champion, and Habib took it upon himself to make sure that he was champion.
yeah.
So he beat this Brazilian who's like a really cool guy called Charles Dubronc Oliveira.
Right.
And that fight, I mean, Charles, you know, he's like a really amazing guy. He was brought up in the favelas in Brazil. So he's like loved by the whole of Brazil because of his journey and his story. And he was the, you know, the current champion, and he's like a really mean fighter, and he had all of his gang there, and they all had bleached hair, and it was just an incredible atmosphere when you got all these different people in the crowds, you know, cheering on their fighters, and that was just one of the fights, because there was other title fights as well. So it was really amazing experience. It was amazing. It was great to experience something different. What I can say, when you put things in context, Ammar, as we've said for many, many years, going to different parts of the world, and they're trying to, you know, put on these fights and attract all these people from all different corners of the globe. We can't ever take for granted what we have in Newcastle with St. James's Park and the cathedral that's up there on the hill, and what it does for the city. And as a sporting phenomena, there's not too many places on earth that can recreate what is created in St. James's Park, because the atmosphere, and the passion and the sport and spirit that is there at St. James's Park, honestly, is just incredible. I mean, people would dream to recreate what we have naturally. People throw millions and millions of pounds at it to recreate that kind of atmosphere, in terms of acoustics in the stadium, in terms of you know, just spending money on showcasing people, attracting them from all over the world. But they don't, you know, we don't need any of that. We've got a football club now. We're kind of, you know, in a different place to where we were, let's say, a year ago before the takeover, and the atmosphere was always there when it was run in the right way prior to Mike Ashley's tenure. So my point is, there's a lot of people, like, for example, Man City is a good example, Ammar. They've got all the money in the world, but they can't recreate the atmosphere that we have at St. James's Park.
Well, they can't.
And it's like a really beautiful feeling for us to be in the city and have that, because, you know, not many cities in the world have what we have.
So how long were you there for?
Just 4 days. Thursday was back on Monday. Fight was on Saturday. But it was really great to actually go away and experience it, and you know.
Well, it's nice to get away with the family, you know, as well.
Yeah,
Just really nice.
About the weather's like a nice thing, isn't it? You know, the sun always does something for you. It's always nice.
Oh, without a doubt. We're missing, I think that's one of the biggest challenges and experiences you know, that affects us, is the lack of the vitamin D and E and all of that.
Yeah. Well, we were also speaking to friends that are out there who've actually originally based in London. Now they're living out there. They've got some really big positions, working for sheikhs and stuff like that. And they are kind of loving life in that part of the world. They enjoy it. They love the weather. They love the security. They love the you know, they love the safety of the country. The fact that it's developed but it's safe. And it's there's a few things that they are not suffering from that we are here in the UK. The inflation, the fear about the spiraling costs, interest rates going up. There's a lot more stability there at this moment in time. I know it can be a bubble and it can go up and down, but currently, the United Arab Emirates, in Dubai especially, the influx of people in Dubai is record. It's like hitting record figures at this moment in time.
Yeah, well, what goes around comes around, doesn't it? And just like coming back to England and the UK, it's very much a perfect storm, isn't it? Inflation, I mean, interest rates, Jack. And I'm paying sort of 3 times what I was on certain properties. Then, in particular, one large property, it's gone up from sort of X amount to 3 times that.
Horrendous. It's horrendous.
Crazy. And it's like,
unfortunately, if our listeners go back to rewind back a year, I mean, we've said this a year ago that if interest rate it's at 3%, if it goes up to 8%, hey, I'm not going to be shocked by it. I'm not going to be shocked by it. So unfortunately, it's not going in the right. I mean, if they're saying themselves that we're expecting the biggest recession in our lifetimes, I mean, what are they getting us prepared for? Because normally they keep that under wraps, don't they?
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. As in, no one talks about recession because there was an argument in 2007, 2008, 2009, whatever, that we talked ourselves into a recession. And it's always been really cautious, and government and press and everybody has always sort of said, we cannot and do not want to spread negativity. And then you realize that actually the fact that they are saying all of these things, and I mean, it's crazy, Jack, how much everything has gone up. And it doesn't matter how much money you've got, but if you, particularly those with limited or less money, the news and you're hearing people saying, well, I'm just turning everything up. They can't afford it.
Yeah.
I mean, our bills are just a joke. And it's crazy.
I mean, look, sad thing is, I think, unfortunately, what's happening, I think I can't help myself to feel that there's something really sinister that's going on. I can't help myself to look on the other side of the fence. You have these so-called conspiracy theories that everyone says that they're crazy. But when you look back to some of the things that they said 2 years ago, hey, man, they seem to be right on a number of fronts. That one of the things that's happening is to make life impossible for the average person, whether it be spiraling energy costs, spiraling interest rates, spiraling food costs, and that's it's an effect of some kind of rationing. Only that a certain amount of people that can afford the basic things that everyone should have, especially in developed countries. I mean, try and get an appointment at the doctors. I mean, the resources are so under pressure all over the place. Essential resources that should be there for provided to us. Especially, man, I feel aggrieved when you pay X amount of taxes a year, which is horrendous, and you can't even get a doctor appointment for 10 days. I mean, what am I paying towards? You know, if there's a robbery or a burglary that happens, and I've suffered from that personally, the police is not going to come and give you any type of solutions or come and see you. I mean, how did it even come to this? It's really, I think I'm really worried about the state of the nation at this moment in time, and someone needs to be honest, get a grip of it, and stop the ship from the direction that it's going, and run the country in the best interests of the public, which is what should be the sole focus. There's no point giving us, oh yeah, I'm there for the people, and then every single decision you make is against the people. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And you know, I think it's gonna, if it continues to go down the trajectory that it's going, I think lives are going to be so difficult for the average person, not people that are on the breadline, but the average middle class families. They're going to struggle so much, and I think it's a really, really worrying position that we're in.
I don't know what to say, but quite simply, I don't know what people can do, Jeff.
I mean, there's only so much resolve and strength that people have. They can try their best and be resolute, but at the end of the day, we can't control macroeconomics. We can't control, you know, the interest rate. We can only control the things that we control. But when external groups make a decision and a fundamental, I mean, if your mortgage goes up by £500 a month, I mean, how many jobs can you have to be able to counteract that?
Yeah.
You know, it's a really, really challenging situation. Let's hope that, you know, for the sake of the nation and for the sake of well-being of people, that, you know, things don't escalate any further, because if they do, I think it's just going to get, I think a lot of people are on the edge, and let's hope that,
Yeah,
you know,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but saying all of that, Ammar, I think when you see the city and leisure and hospitality, I think things are as they should be for this time of the year. The venues are busy, people are going out, the towns are lively, especially there's a feel-good factor because of the extra feel-good factor because of the football, and the fact that the club's doing well. On those particular days, you can really feel something in the air, in the city. so there is that. So I guess the any cracks that are there, they haven't come to the surface as yet, and hopefully they won't. And people are able to make those adjustments in their lives to be able to counteract the increases that are there, kind of for everyone to see.
Well, there's only so much that so many people can do, and you know, I think you can squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, but you get to a point where you can't squeeze anymore.
No.
You know, and then there's the more broader challenges affecting people. I mean, just from a business perspective in the city centre, I know that you've got you know, significant following and footfall, but when you're speaking to operators and things like that, are people not seeing a downturn?
The operators that I've spoke to are at this time, no. But I was speaking to a wine supplier yesterday, and he said that across the country, apart from London, there is huge issues in terms of cost increases and cutting down labour. So that is happening. I think that for us, we're just hoping that we get through November and December, and I think that in January we'll see who's who and where realistically people are, because no matter what happens in hospitality and in retail, because of the festive season, everyone's got the eye on December, Christmas, and the extra sales and the extra business that everyone does, whether it be retail or hospitality. So I think even if you're in trouble, you're going to be able to get through the next 7 weeks. And I think in January, that's where you'll see where you really are. So I guess it's probably and this is not the time to really see closures or those distressed operators, getting more in trouble. That'll be in January, February, I would have thought.
Yeah, and there's only that perfect storm. The fact there has been a 40% increase in insolvencies. There's so many businesses that simply cannot operate. The crazy thing about it is, from a banks and banking perspective, other than COVID, all other loans and financial facilities have been given through personal guarantees.
Through PGs, yeah.
As in, the bank, every single bank asked every single director for personal guarantees, haven't they? That's been a practice they've done for the last sort of 10, 15 years, isn't it?
So those bounce back loans, Ammar, were the PGs and
Not
bounce
those.
back?
No. So not COVID related ones, but I'm saying generally speaking, right? So for example, you've got a commercial property, you've taken out a commercial loan for that property, and as a director, the bank has gone, you need to give a PG for this, and you've gone, well, it's property, it's either a long-term lease or it's a freehold or whatever it is, and actually at the time of you as an individual, as a director, it's a total different environment, it's a total different circumstance, but all of a sudden you found yourself giving PGs, haven't you? And you've not thought anything of it because you wouldn't be going into business if you thought it was going to fail.
Yeah.
And any loan that a bank's given, I'm unaware of a bank giving a loan to a company without asking a director's PG.
I mean, well, that's going to put so many people in such difficult positions where effectively, ultimately, their house and the roof over their head is not theirs, is it? And we were always brought up to never put your home at risk with any type of guarantees over your home. Now, if that's done through the back door without really individuals knowing about it or consciously having that at the forefront in that decision, because you get a loan, you think, oh my God, it's great, I've got that loan. Then you kind of get that loan and you've got your best interests at heart, or you've got that, you think that, I'm going to make it work. And then later on, if you read the small print and it says that there's a personal guarantee, are you going to pull out that loan at that time based on a personal guarantee? I don't think many people will they? So I think that's another huge worry for those that do have personal guarantees over their home on business loans.
Anyway, positive news. Newcastle's doing well, Jeff?
Yeah, we are. We're doing very, very well. I think I was having this conversation, some of the players that were in, and I was trying to kind of get them to, I was saying from my perspective, if you imagine, Ammar, you are the chair of the EIF, right? And all of a sudden, you are sat in 4th position.
Yeah.
Now, you're one of the richest corporate organizations in the world, worth a few trillion, right? Do you think that when they can smell blood, there is at no point will they let that go? So if you imagine the chairman, he's going to be having the conversations with the chief executive and the sporting director, saying, look, well done, boys. Congratulations on being in 4th position. Now, tell me what you need in order for us to never move away from that position. because whatever resources that you need for us to stay top four at the end of the season, just it's yours.
Yeah.
Now, would you be having that conversation, Ammar? Because I certainly would be. So my point is, I think come January, if we're in the mix and we beat Southampton on Sunday and we beat Chelsea a week on Saturday,
yeah.
and we're kind of in a top four, top three position that takes us into back end of December with a January transfer window. And if they can add one or two players that would improve the team, as we did do in last January, then imagine that would be, if we can have a better second half of the season than what we do at the first half of the season, and we get the backing from the owners, which I'm sure they will, we could realistically end up in a top four position, which would just be unbelievable to have Champions League football next season.
Well, I think it'd be incredible. I think, but we deserve it. That's the other thing.
Well, it's a matter of just, you deserve it because of the points that you build up. But I think if we go on the trajectory that we're going, I just think that it's realistic. And that's just unbelievable. So, we can quietly, I think we'll quietly disrupt the top six for sure. Unfortunately, Liverpool are not looking good this season, but it's good for us. That's one more big club out the way.
Obviously, my son's not very happy, is he? But he's starting to come over to the dark side, is what he is. So that's good.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it's not the dark side; it's the right side. Yeah.
The black and white side.
Yeah.
So yeah. Good. So we've got football, politics. I think that the new Prime Minister since we've last spoke.
Yeah, I left with Liz Truss, and then I came back with good old Rishi's in power. I mean, it's I think it's just the landscape of politics. I just think it's something that I've never ever seen before. So many changes to leaders. You've heard about it in other countries, but it's certainly not something that we've experienced in the UK.
Yeah.
Do you think Rishi Ammar? Do you think you make a big difference?
Honest answer, don't know. I'd like to think so, but part of the challenge is all the environmental factors. I think I mentioned this when I met him. He's one of the best speakers I've come across. Highly intelligent, highly capable and competent, but that level of charisma, it's interesting. And also, don't forget that I'll tell you what was really interesting was the fact that we had lots of people looking for Boris. Boris is a charismatic character, right?
Yeah.
As in, whatever you think of him, whatever you feel towards him, he is a charismatic character, and he connected with people, very intelligent, and this person. Sorry?
He's got the X factor.
Well, yes, and it's not easy to criticize and sort of pick faults with people, and absolutely agree with a lot of the facts that were shared allegedly around his actions and what he should have done and what he didn't do, and we all have a view, but politicians and politics, I almost feel as if people are dealing with such big livelihood and life issues that politics almost feels a bit like a distraction to a lot of people. And people have got really disengaged and disenfranchised and disconnected. As in the people doing what they're doing up there, over there, living in, dare I say, a bubble compared to people on the street, people like you and I who are experiencing the challenges, trying to keep people in employment, trying to make a difference, trying to just live a life. It feels as if there's a big disconnect, is what it feels like, Jalf.
Maybe there is a big disconnect, but I think also I just feel that the politicians right at the top, they get the instructions from lobby groups and corporate organizations. And they're the ones that give them all the funding, all the money, and they have to make the decisions in the interest of those big corporates. And they don't look at the best, they don't look at it in the interests of the people on the ground. And that's the sad thing about it all. And I think that's just so evident out there. And no matter who's in power, I don't think, someone asked me, well, because Rishi is Asian, do you feel really, really happy? And I said, look, there's obviously always going to be a sense of pride that it's an Asian prime minister. You think that, oh, good on you, son. You've done really, really well. And that's kind of the organizations that we're involved in with ABC. That's kind of something that we'll always be very, very proud of. And it's like an amazing achievement. So yes, there is that element for sure, 100%. But do I feel that Rishi's going to be able to change the big policies because of Rishi Sunak? Absolutely not, because he can't go and change anything, because all the policies are aligned and set, and not one individual is going to go and make a huge difference to anything. So whether it be the views on Ukraine, whether it be the views on the environmental policies that they want to introduce, those significant, whether it's down to the new digital banking system, whether it's cashless societies, all of those things are not going to change. Not one individual is going to go and do it, because it's part of a amalgamation of the biggest corporates around the world who have got a universal policy, and the British Prime Minister must be a part of that, and that's very, very sad. And I think that's something that I don't know if everyone understands that, but that's clearly what's happening today. And it's sad that if you can't be a prime minister, a strong prime minister, and actually do something about it. I felt that Boris had a bit of clout to be able to do that because of his personality and how strong he was. But I'm not sure if Rishi's going to be able to do anything like what Boris did.
Yeah, and I think just to pick up on that, a couple of those points. So I think it's fantastic. I had actually said one of the reasons why Rishi wasn't elected was, potentially the color of his skin, because people weren't ready for an ethnic prime minister, and it's wonderful to see that happen, regardless of however it happened, on the basis of the person that they did have was obviously not ideal for that position. From a Liz Truss and a Kwasi Kwarteng, I think they had some great ambitions. I think they're focusing on growth. I think some of the policies would have benefited a lot of people. The tax and the national insurance and everything that was reversed, but it just demonstrates how the markets do dictate and influence politics in a big way. The bond markets have historically always sort of, if anyone messes with bonds, it's like, right, well, we'll change policy and governments, and it's happened globally, where bonds are being devalued or being bought, and that monetary policy being impacted by politics, right? And that was clearly a demonstration of that happening. And so for me, I think it's absolutely wonderful that we have someone of colour from an ethnic community. It demonstrates and shows to others that they too can hopefully achieve that. Given the fact that we'd had so many women, it wasn't like that big of a deal to have another woman, but it certainly was and is a big deal to have someone from the ethnic community. I still find it really interesting that people have this conscious and unconscious bias of, do you know Muhammad, right? And it's like, well, do you know John? Or do you know Sandra? Or do you know Sarah? Because it's exactly the same mentality, right? Oh, well, as an ethnic person, you're an ethnic person, you must know them. And it's incredibly the conversations that people still have in their biases, whether that's conscious or unconscious, in that way. I find it extraordinary. And whilst that may not relate directly to Rishi, I regularly have these conversations still with people because they just can't get their head around, the fact that there's, as an individual. So first and foremost, right, just because you are of color doesn't necessarily mean that you align to or makes you an inclusive person, or all of a sudden you're going to try and transform things and whatever else. In fact, there is an argument, as we have seen previously, that people in politics promise so many things until they get into power and then are influenced by their environment and realize that they are quite constrained in what they can do and what they've been asked to do. So, sort of all of a sudden, starting to think about inclusion, I cannot see the UK becoming any less divisive as a consequence of having a prime minister of colour at the top. In fact, some of the cabinet and some of what you're hearing and seeing from people like the Home Secretary is actually creating further division. As in, I find it extraordinary that we once again label certain migrants, because they are of colour, distinctly different to other migrants that are white.
Yeah, but what's Suella going to do about it? Nothing. She's going to have to endorse and continue with those policies. I mean, I don't understand. This something again. This migrant thing. It's a bit confusing, to be honest. I'm not sure what's up with. Supposedly, I don't even know if this is true or not. Supposedly, there's lots of Albanian men that are sat there in Dover trying to get into the country, right? Escaping their problems in their homeland, right? I would say that, okay, if you're running away from troubles at home, are you just running away by yourself? Where's your wife and where's your kids? You're just leaving them behind in those trouble areas. And you're coming, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I don't get it.
It doesn't make any, and plus, look, it's no shame to say that I'm a son of a migrant. Anyone that wants to come to this country, if I had a policy of and I was putting in the policy in place for migration into the country, I would say that, yeah, migrants are welcome, but you're only welcome if you're going to come and add some positivity and some value to our country. Do you have a certain type of skill set? Can we vet you to understand your character, your background? It's a bit similar to, even if we're trying to bring a chef into the country, Ammar, we need to know the last 5 years history. Have you worked in credible organizations? Are you stable? Have you held a job for 3 years? Have you moved up ranks? Do you have ambition? Do you have skill? Do you have, a resilience about yourself? Do you want to kind of grow and get better? Are you young? Are you talented? Yes, we want you to come and add value to our organization, ultimately adding value to the country. As opposed to bringing in individuals who are going to sit there, go and sit on the benefits, put more pressure on all of those things and not want to sit there with not wanting to work and add value to the economy. What's the point? I don't know. I think it's simple, it's quite logical. Look at what we've done and what our family's done, what our community has done, and the value that they've added to the nation.
Yeah.
Now, anyone that comes, you have to fit within that framework. Otherwise, why let them come into the country?
I listen. My views are very much based on the fact that if anyone's coming anywhere, moving from one place to another, we need to consider the facts and the motives and the motivation behind that. But secondly, are they going to contribute to an overstretched, bursting society? We don't have enough of anything for the people who are here right now. Going back to your point around doctors, right? Trying to get in and see a doctor, it's taking 10 days for us. And then more people are coming into this, and whatever it is, it's like, and there's all of those challenges: schools, education, free school meals. There's and there's only so much tax we can pay. So we're being squeezed. I've done a very crude calculation the other day, Jeff. I think I'm currently working at like 10 pence an hour.
Wow, you're getting paid more than me.
All right.
I'm free for the state. I'm owned by the state.
Yeah, enemy of the state. But anyway, it's gosh, it's challenging times. Let's not talk too much about politics. Let's talk about success. And look, the great thing was ABC hosted its dinner. It was a great event. Everyone had a fantastic time. And the nominations are going to open up for next year because we want people to get the recognition early on. We're going to start promoting all of the nominations so everybody can see submissions and things like that. We're going to encourage people to actually support one another. And then more broadly, we are delivering a series of programs, Jeff. So there's Pitch Perfect program, learning how to pitch your business and secure investment to grow, or even just review your business model. It's a perfect time to do that. We've also got an internationalization program, and this week I've been working with NHS and their partners on delivering innovation programs to them, and it's incredible to see them do what they are doing in such an amazing way. And it's really refreshing. So there is some support out there, and I'm not just suggesting that's what we can offer. There's lots of support still out there, but the most important thing is to go and seek and secure that support before it runs out. These are funded activities. I cannot comment on the quality of everything out there. I can simply say the stuff that we do is transformative. The tools, the techniques that we have, the people involved, they genuinely can and do add incredible value. So reach out if you're interested in sort of reviewing your business model, if you're interested in growing in such circumstance. And it's crazy, right, Jeff? Because if you look at recession, that's when all of the organizations that are currently thriving, that's where they came about. So it's funny, but things like Netflix had spoken to Blockbusters and asked them to collaborate. There was examples of Amazon and Google talking to big incumbent organizations and asking them to work with them. And those big organizations no longer exist. So the Kodak, the Toys R Us's, the Blockbusters, all of those, it's crazy. Because they didn't refresh what they were doing and they didn't renew what they were doing. And then these young people, young entrepreneurs taking risks, looking at new ways of doing things. It's incredible. Look at the tech companies, right? Over the last 2.5 years, tech companies have grown exponentially. 160,000 staff taken on by the top 5 tech companies globally. Guess how many jobs they're losing now? 160,000.
What do you mean?
Because people change. People's habits have changed. People want to go out and buy stuff and do stuff back the way that they were. They don't want to rely on digital to the same extent.
Yeah, well, of course, I think it's a good thing, man. Go in the park and enjoy nature, and go out and play with cars and play football on the streets, man. You don't want to have all these techno geeks everywhere.
You're right.
You're
right.
And look, we need to embrace nature and those old-fashioned things, because the world would be much better for it.
You're absolutely right, Jalf. You've been listening to Ammar and
Jalf.
It's Red
hopefully
Hot
we'll
Radio.
come back with some positive.
FM 98.8
all right,
Can be all positive.
Policing Minister Chris Phillips insists that Manston is legally compliant days after Immigration Minister Robert Jenrick suggested it wasn't. It comes following complaints of overcrowding.
We've seen, I think, a very dramatic improvement